happy Freya. Welcome to episode 21. I'm going to do something a little bit differently here. We're going to have a little one-on-one, and I don't usually do that just for this episode. I'm just going to share a little bit of why I've been MIA lately, and I don't usually do episodes like these, and I find it difficult to be super vulnerable and open like this and actually just talking openly in a mic, and hopefully there's somebody on the other side listening. So I have moved, I moved to Utah. I purchased a property here. I live in Canada. And about 2 years and a bit ago, my mom passed away, and that's been a big, huge catalyst of change for me. It's been a transformation, actually. So just a bit about myself. I lost my dad in my late 20s, and I lost my mom in my late 30s. And I remember a moment in my life where I was literally heartbroken and just yelling and screaming at the top of my lungs, kind of, that I have lost my parents. I have no parents. And it was just a very big moment for me. And I was asking why they had to go. And I know a lot of people here who are light workers and people who come here on a journey. They have a purpose here. They come here and they experience a lot of trauma or events or things in their life. And it's because we were brought here to learn how to transform and transmute that energy. And it's been a journey with me doing my body work and my emotional body work and being surrounded by such great healers and friends that have helped me along my journey. So I know not many people can say that maybe they were close to their parents. Maybe their parents were a lesson, they were learning something from them. Maybe they were raised by a grandparent or somebody else. I just want to say that if you look back in your life, you'll find love there. Somebody always demonstrated love and showed you love. Be it a guardian, a parent, a teacher, a best friend, whoever, it was always there. So my parents met in Fiji. They're both high school teachers. My mom taught English and my dad taught math. I was very close with my dad, love both my parents, but my dad was like my best friend, and my mom was like, I'm talking about the mom moment, which is like, I don't know, people feel like that with their moms sometimes, but for example, like when I was a little girl, if I did something where I was getting in trouble, if somebody said, "Hey, Pam, we're going to tell your dad," I'd be like, "Go ahead. It's fine. He's not going to do anything." But if somebody said, "Hey, we're going to tell your mom," I was like, I'd like hide under the sheets and just hide. And she wasn't terrible or anything. It was just, it's a mom. It's like the mom energy. I have to say that. Maybe there's some people who can relate to that. But my dad, I just wanted to share a poem that I read at his eulogy, which reminds me of the way that he parented. There's a poem by Khalil Gibran. He's a Lebanese poet, very famous. And there was a section in there about your children. And he said, "Your children are not your children. They come through you, but not from you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow." That reminds me of my dad, because he never told us how to think or how to be. We were just such independent thinkers. And I think because both my parents were like that. My mom was the one who bought the chalkboard and put it down on the bottom floor, on our first floor. She was the one who was diligent in our schooling and our education. And my mom reminds me of the saying, it was a movie that she loved called To Sir with Love with Sidney Poitier. And there was a song lyric that went, "How do you thank someone who takes you from crayons to perfume?" You see, this is why I don't like doing these things, because this salty liquid just comes out of my eye, and that's why I rub it, and it gets what it gets. So yeah, those are my parents. I absolutely loved and adored my parents, and I still do, and I have a relationship with them in their spirit form. So I lived in one house in one location for over 30 years of my life. That's the kind of stability I had. In Richmond, I grew up total farm town, and we grew up, playing cops and robbers and catching frogs in the ditch. So we did those kind of things growing up. There were no cell phones, and video games were just starting, Nintendo, Mario Brothers. But even then, we were on a strict time slot of how long we could be on that because books were more important and education for my parents than video games. So I took some time off from social media and podcasting to respect my grief journey and allow myself the opportunity to grieve so I can be fully present here with you. I wanted to share some things that I learned along the way about grief. One of them being that it comes in waves and you crash. And sometimes it feels like in the body with grief that it's so much that it's like, oh my gosh, how can I move forward in life? You know, I remember crying at the grocery store, running out, crying at the dentist office, crying and crying and crying. The tough things are going through your loved ones and belongings closet, maybe looking at where they left their cup last. And give me a moment. You know, I remember this time I just wanted to, I had some good news. And you see, this is why I don't do episodes like this. I had some good news and I wanted to share it. And I remember going to my mom's, heading towards my mom's room to tell her about it. And then I realized, oh my gosh, she's not there. Right. So these are the moments that are the tough moments. And I just want to acknowledge them. They're very human and they're just moments that are part of the journey. For somebody who connects with the spirit realm, and I know a lot of people, you know, in this community, they jump this phase. They're like, okay, well, you can just communicate and talk to spirits. Well, you know what? You came here as a human being and you came here in this form and you're here to learn about the body and where emotions hang out and how to process them and how to move through them. And that's the mastery of it. And so this is really the depths. This is the painting that has all the colors in it. Instead of just having a white canvas, use magenta, use purple, use black, use white, use all of it. So one thing my mom said before she passed away was, I have lived a full life. I have absolutely no regrets, and you have to respect my decision. Because we knew and she knew that she was going. And not many people can say that, I can say, for having no regrets and living a full life. I think a lot of people succumb to cultural norms on how they should live, how they should be. I was chatting with a friend who's a very gifted psychic, and she said, Pam, you know, 90% of my clients, high percentage, come in and they're in a job they don't like and they're in a relationship they don't want to be in. And only a few are living their, as she calls it, their truth. And I just was so baffled by that because it's true and it's sad and we need to change that. And we change that by living it ourselves. So my mom, actually both my parents, my dad got to travel, my mom with those regrets, no regrets, as she said. Not many people can say that. And that's my mom. She's like, she was My Way by Frank Sinatra. She's totally My Way by Frank Sinatra. So one of the things we do in our culture is when we know somebody's passing away, we ask for forgiveness. And you know, whether somebody has passed or not, I really encourage people to exercise this, whether they visualize or think about somebody who may have brought harm or hurt, or whether you were somebody who unintentionally or intentionally hurt another human being. Allow yourself forgiveness. And forgiveness, if we could allow forgiveness, doesn't justify the experience or the act. Forgiveness is the act of letting go. So not only does it set you free, it sets the other person free. And it's just a very healing journey. So I remember kneeling beside my mom by the hospital bedside and saying, Mom, you know, I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. And if I ever did anything to cause you any harm, be it intentional or unintentional. Can you please forgive me? I didn't mean it." And she gave such a mom response. And what was that mom response? It was, "Ah, it's just let it go." And with that, I I did. It was a journey. And I took her last words of no regrets, and I went to a place called Peru, which is a place I've always wanted to go to. And I've been to places now that not many people have the luxury of seeing and being a part of. And for example, one cave was the cave of the ancestors. And give me a minute here. Like, we went to such remote places. We literally put on boots to our knees and had our flashlight helmet. They were unmarked. You talk to somebody in a town of a town of a town who knows somebody who can drive you to that location that's unmarked in some backyard of a farm, and there it was. And even in this cave of the ancestors, I have much respect and reverence with. I went with an Andean wisdom keeper, Jamie, of Children of the Seven Rays. So thank you, Jamie, for that journey, and Star. And I just remember being in this cave, and the water is like inches away from your face, and your backpack is scraping the top of the cave because you're going down these narrow ledges, and the water is just rushing below you, and it's a very sacred site. And so you enter with such reverence. And I did ask his permission if I could share some of these stories, and he did say yes, by all means. And I remember in that dark cave, the only thing you could see was a person in front of you, their flashlight. That was it. That was your guidance, was a bit of light. So in Peru, there's two incidents and events I want to share with you before I kind of wrap this up. One was in Corel, which is the second oldest civilization in the world. And we were here among these pyramids. And I remember we were on top of a hill, and we're looking down at these pyramids. And part of the ceremony was that we were to let go of things, and we were to give it to the mother. And then in exchange for letting go of these things, we offered the mother plant leaves, and we buried them as a thank you, because that was the exchange. And so I decided I was going to pick 3 things that day. And the 3 things were grief, sorrow, and sadness, because it was very heavy in my heart. And so I took those things and I buried it. And that's the thing, that we had, whatever we took to ask the mother to take away, we had to leave it there. There wasn't any revisitation. You leave it. You've dealt with it now. It's time to let it go. And I remember as I did that, I saw these birds that were flying, and they were bluebirds. And that reminds me of my mom, because she was always fond of the bluebird of happiness. And they were spiraling just around and just going around. And, they reminded me of the sparrows. If you ever remember PE class in like high school, and you'd be out in the baseball field in the outfield, and then you'd be out in the baseball field, and these birds and these I think they're swallows, and they would go and they'd fly around you, and they'd phase you out and they'd trick you. So that reminded me of that moment, just that happiness and that bliss. And in that moment, I saw my mom, and I saw my mom with her dad who had passed, and her brothers. And she was so happy, and she was just in this blissful state. And in that moment, I thought, oh my gosh, how selfish am I to hold on to her the way that I'm holding on to her? And I was holding on to her pretty tightly. And to see her so free in the spirit realm and be happy for her in that moment, that just, you know? And then something came up, and this is the biggest thing with grief, because I talked to my mom in that moment. I talked to her in that free as a spirit, as a bird form. And I said, Mom, if I let you go, I'm going to forget you. And I said, moving on meant I was going to forget you. And it's only been 2 years and a bit, And I'm so close to my parents for like 40 years, pretty much inseparable. And I said, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to forget you. And then in that moment, she replied to me and she said, how can you forget me? Look in the mirror. You have my face. And she said, I am in your DNA. And then she said one thing which really stood out for me in addition to all that, which was there are 0 degrees of separation. That stood out for me because before she passed away, when I had my time with her alone, I said, Mom, there are 0 degrees of separation. We're always going to be together. You can always talk to me. You know, I can talk to spirits, right? So you can always talk to me, because she always worried. Moms always worry about their kids, if they're doing okay and if they're doing well. And so I just said, there are 0 degrees of separation. And that's what she told me on top of the hill. And she said, I'm always in your heart. And there you will find me. So you can always talk to loved ones. And I do believe the heart is a portal and a dimension to other realms and realities. If you've ever read Paul Pearsall, I believe, The Heart's Code, when he had a heart transplant and he was noticing other people, they started getting the memories of the donor. And so that didn't exist in the brain as much. It would have existed in the heart. And I feel like we haven't really tapped into that yet, but we're going to, and it's going to be revealed more. So that was the one moment. And the other moment was I was at another location, and the Andean Jamie, he said, I was at an ancient temple, the civilization. He said, can you go to the corner? Your mom's here. She wants to talk to you. And I said, okay. So I went to the corner and I saw her. She came in a beautiful white, like an Indian gown and traditional outfit. And I saw her so clearly, you know, and then I started crying. And then I was getting upset because I was crying so much. And I couldn't hear the message. And so when we later reconvened, you know, he asked how it went. I said, yeah, it was good. I just can't hear her because I feel so upset. This was prior to that corral incident where I received that message. This was leading up to it. And so later on in the bus, he said, Pam, what did your mom say? And I said, I couldn't hear. And he says, may I give you the message? And I said, okay. And he described exactly my mom, how I saw her in the outfit and, you know, all that. And she came up to me and she saw me crying and she puts her hands to my face, you know, like a mother would endearingly to her daughter. And she was wiping my tears because I was crying so much. And so I'm really happy that Jamie had the opportunity to give me the message, and I want to share that with people today. She said, she no longer wants to be the reason for my sadness. She wants to be the reason why I'm happy. And that is the greatest legacy and gift you can give to your loved ones who have passed, is to live your full life, make the decisions and choices to accomplish your dreams, and be happy. And happy is not some false state or some word in a dictionary. It's a state of being. And yes, you can achieve it here on earth. Hence why I titled this podcast, Happy Freya. One of the things my grandma used to do for her grandchildren, she would, we would touch her feet, right? As part of our blessings as her grandchildren. We would touch her feet and she'd put her hand over our head and she would say, Kuch Kushi Ho, which in Hindi means, go be happy. And the second thing she would say is, be healthy, have the body to be healthy to express this happiness. So if I leave you with one message today, it would be that to go be happy. And that is the greatest gift you can give to people who have passed in the spirit realm. That is how you break these ancestral, whatever people call it. Your ancestors put forth dreams here, whether it was, I wanted to travel more, or I wanted to see the world more, or I want a loving relationship, or I want to be in a career that I love doing. Do those things. That's how, people call them generational curses and things. Do those things to break it. I don't think it's that. I just think it's wishes that may have gone unfulfilled, and you are their wish fulfilling it. You live it how you want to live it according to your life. So if you could do those things, do that. Go be happy. Let your greatest legacy here on earth to be the fullest expression of the orb that you are, to live a happy and healthy and full life. That would be a blessing I would like to give to people who listen in today, is happiness. Thank you for listening. And I dedicate this episode to my loving parents, Aisha and Ranjit Singh.